Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for our virtual workshop series. Today, you are going to be hearing from the DiJulius Group's President, Chief Revolution Officer, and best-selling author, John DiJulius, on presentation skills to get ahead in the corporate world. I just wanted to mention that we do have a number of additional virtual workshops coming up in the future. The dates are all listed right there for you on the screen. After today's presentation, I will be sending all of you a follow-up email. It will include not only the recording of today's presentation, but also John's PDF slide deck and additional resources that are mentioned, just so you have everything handy and in one place. Unfortunately, today, John will not be available to take live Q&A. However, you can still use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your Zoom screen to submit questions. I will make sure that all of those get answered for you, and can include all of the answers and follow-up information in the email that I will be sending you later today. And you can also use the chat feature on the bottom of your Zoom screen. I will be here with you live moderating all of that. So any additional information you need or questions that I can answer for you now, I will absolutely address immediately for you. And now I am going to turn it over to John.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hello, revolutionaries. I'm excited to talk about presentation skills to get ahead in the corporate world. You do not have to be a professional presenter to dramatically improve your presentation skills and move people, rally a team, or whoever your audience is. Your audience might be, you might be in sales, right? And the external client customer. You might be a recruiter trying to get potential candidates to come work for your brand. You might be a trainer, and you might be training your employees from orientation to technical training. You might be a teacher. It all is the same, what I'm about to share with you. So what are poor presentations? Lack of training, lack of structure, lack of confidence. This is, well, all three of these are big, but lack of confidence is probably the biggest one I find when we're working with corporate leaders, because they just get in their head that they don't like speaking in front of people, so to speak. Not organized, not prepared, kind of all over the place, which leads to the lack of training, lack of structure. And I just said it, filler words. Here's the things you got to remember. Everyone is nervous. Be passionate. And if you're passionate, that will take care of 80%. You also have to remember you are the expert at your topic. No one knows more than you to the people you're speaking to. Again, if it's sales, if it's training, if it's recruiting about the brand. And everyone publicly speaks every day, right? One-on-one Zoom calls to each other, in a presentation, out socially. Lean into your personality, be you, and create your own unique styles. Which careers do you find the best speakers in? Typically, it's coaches, any sport, politicians, CEOs, comedians, CEOs, and today the new probably category is social influencers, right? And so what do these 5 careers, if you will, have in common? They have to rally a group of people to a common vision. And get people to see it, get people to buy into it, get people to be engaged. A comedian has to get you to be in the story and see it and literally transform yourself. So, what makes a great presentation? That it's engaging to the audience. You disarm them. Everyone in every presentation, in any type of presentation. Remember, I'm not talking about being a professional speaker. I'm talking about in any presentation that's being had, even if it's one-on-one. Some people are like, who is he? Who is she? I've heard it before. So you want to disarm the audience. You want to disarm the person, people you're speaking to by sharing that you have some knowledge of their situation, some knowledge of their pain, some knowledge of what they're going through. So the audience can relate to the speaker. Speaker understands the audience condition, is a great storyteller, inspires action. Favorite quote of mine when it comes to speaking is, you if you can persuade, inspire, ignite the imagination of others, you will be unstoppable, irresistible, and irreplaceable. Love that. And if you're a leader, that's our job. That is our job, is to, unless we're transforming all the AI and getting rid of labor, but even customers, right? You got to get them to buy in to your brand and product. So, what does capture the attention of the audience, takes them on an emotional journey, keeps them on the edge of their seats, wanting to know what happens next, transports them into what you're talking about? And the answer is storytelling. And remember, when I talk about your audience, it might be one person, it might be six people. It's whoever your audience is. Again, sales, recruiting, that could be one-on-one interviewing, whatever it may be. So if nothing else you walk away from today, become a better storyteller. Okay. Have your own signature stories in your back pocket that you always go to. You're probably already a good storyteller. You just don't realize it. Like if you're with your kids and you're telling them stories about what it was like when you were young and how you had to walk up both ways to school, uphill both ways, barefoot in the snow, right? You're a storyteller. If you're around, with friends and you're talking about how you met your significant other and how she didn't like you at first, truth is that's what I had. It has to apply to the content and the audience. You just can't have a good story. You can't, have a good joke. You can't say, a rabbi and a priest walk into a bar, right? You can if it applies to the content and your audience. Details make the story. Paint the picture. So I'm actually there. I'm at the bar. I'm at, wherever, you're making me feel, tell me about. Need plenty of plots and twists to the story, right? If you talk about a story of how you met your significant other, I met her, it was love at first sight. I asked her out, we fell in love, got engaged, got married, had three kids and grew old together. While that's a nice story, it's a boring story. And you got to have that. Yeah, she thought I was a jerk at first, and she wouldn't go out with me, and so it has to have high lows. You have to have a villain, victim, and hero, and this is the most important element to storytelling. This is the most important element to presentation. So the power of storytelling is the best story wins, right? The best story will make you the best presenter. You don't have to be a professional speaker to tell stories. We tell stories daily, not just business, but socially at home. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm putting my presenter hat on, even though I'm presenting right now, but in my line of work, which is customer experience, I might say, don't punish 98% of your customers for what you're afraid 2% might do. All right. But I'll still lead with that. But to really drive home that point, I'm going to tell a story to make this really resonate with my audience. It might be my team. It might be, other companies. Okay. So here's my story. If it gets to me, it's free. I've always had that in my company. When I started my salons 31 years ago, when I started my consulting business 25 years ago, it's always, if it gets to me, it's free. And what that means is if someone has to call me up, email me, about something that happened and wasn't taken care of, I'm not going to argue with them, whatever they want, because by that time they're pretty upset. So long time ago, this is probably 25 years ago, I had a guest from the salon and spa call me up. And she said, Mr. DiJulius, I am a client of your Solon location. And I was in recently, and the hairdresser got hair color on my suit jacket. And I was like, oh gosh. And she said, I tried to get it cleaned and it wouldn't come out. And the suit is worthless without the jacket. And they no longer sell the suit. So I apologized. I said, can I send you a check for the suit? And she was shocked. And she said, you don't want to see it? I said, no, no, no. She goes, you don't want to know how old it is? I said, no, not necessarily. Not necessary. And so she gives me her address. We hang up. I look her up, and I see that she's been coming for 3 or 4 years. She comes about 7 times a year. She's never referred anyone. But so I send her a check for the suit, which is about $250. This is in the 90s. And I send her a gift certificate for her inconvenience, like a $50 gift certificate to the spa. And then a year later, I was curious if we retained her. And so I looked her up, and I was really happy to see that she came in another 7 or 8 times in the ensuing 12 months. I was really happy until I clicked on her referrals and saw that in the ensuing 12 months, she referred 18 new customers to John Roberts Spa. Where can I spend $250 in advertising and get 18 new customers? So now I tell all my employees to get color on everyone's clothes. Okay, so you could see how that story probably has a bigger impact than just, giving a quote or, I love this. Data tells, but stories sell, right? I could tell you, or you could tell your team or whoever your audience is, that 62% of customers who have an issue that is recovered well by the company become more loyal. Okay, that's a good statistic, but telling a story like that really drives home the point. Another big mistake that corporate world does is really bad PowerPoint. And I a lot of times when I speak, I follow corporate speakers, CEOs, and their PowerPoints are just miserable. And this was a hard thing for me to learn, 25, 28 years ago. But try to limit your text to no more than 6 words. As I'm going to break this rule on this slide, but normally in my presentation, you'll see a quote is probably the only words I have. Everything else is a visual. Everything else, and when I say use graphic, I mean use images, and you could almost use an image in place of everything. Never read your notes or slides. Don't always have to use slide. Think of the last comedian or any comedian you've ever seen. They don't use PowerPoint, and they're still really effective. You're still transported to being in that story. So this was a way someone introduced me one time, and they literally read every bullet point, and it robbed the passion of the presenter. Don't even know if he had any, because he was literally, I want to introduce John DiJulius. He is considered, and he took this right from my bio at the time. Versus, since that example, this is what we give people to introduce me. And, screw the bio. And you don't have to say anything. You can say our next presenter is John DiJulius. And it's obvious he's written some books. It's obvious he works with some really good companies. And you don't even have to say that. You could just say why we brought John in. So you could see the use of imagery over just bullets. Another big thing that every presenter struggles with is curse of knowledge. And curse of knowledge is you're the expert. You know what you're talking about. And unless you're talking to experienced people in your industry on your team, they will not know. You have to talk to whoever you're talking to like they're in 7th grade. Like literally think that. And that's not an insult to your audience, but they don't know what you know. They don't know your terms. So often, we at the DiJulius Group being guilty of when we're talking to our clients of talking about CX, CSAT, NPS, and just rattling off KPIs, ROX. And these are all terminology we use every day, and people in the customer experience industry know, but I don't know, you might not have known any or a lot of those things. So even words and terms, you have to make sure if the layman does not understand your term, you're gonna lose them. Okay, I want to get into this. Here's really the critical piece, the 5 elements of a great presentation. And listen, these times are for our class that we have that we're going to talk a little bit about coming in June, open to the public. It's a 2-day workshop. So ignore the times up top now. Kind of think of it as a percentage. Whether your presentation is 10 minutes, an hour, or it's an 8-hour workshop training, okay, you still have to have these pieces in there. And I'm going to go into each of them. The icebreaker, then you got to set the stage. You have to have the proof for content, which is like the biggest part, the call to action, and then the strong close. So let's start off with the icebreaker, right? It's the audience audition to get the audience to like you, build credibility. So, this is what we ask when we do our workshop after someone gives their icebreaker. Everyone in the audience has to say, did the speaker grab your attention, keep you engaged, and make you want to listen to more? Did it apply to the topic? Did it add credibility to the speaker, his or her opening icebreaker? And are you more interested in the topic than originally? So I'm going to show you like a 50-second opening icebreaker on one of the top TED Talks of all time by Dan Pink.
I need to make a confession at the outset here. A little over 20 years ago, I did something that I regret, something that I'm not particularly proud of, something that in many ways I wish no one would ever know, but that here I feel kind of obliged to reveal. In the late 1980s, in a moment of youthful indiscretion, I went to law school. Now, in America, law is a professional degree. You get your university degree, then you go on to law school. And when I got to law school, I didn't do very well. To put it mildly, I didn't do very well. I, in fact, graduated in the part of my law school class that made the top 90% possible. Thank you.
Love that. So, exactly, did he engage you? Did he endear you? Do you want to listen to more? And that's what an icebreaker does. The second part is setting the stage, right? Creating pain, discomfort, the crisis. Why do they need to hear this? How does it apply to them? And then, you want to go into sources, facts, and research. So what we ask in our workshop, and we also, do this with companies, they bring us to help their on site to help their leaders become better speakers. But did the speaker introduce the villain? And this is the biggest part of the storytelling. And storytelling has to be all those. Dan Pink just told a great, quick story. All right. Did the audience, you, feel uneasy, uncomfortable with the way things are? Right. Did it apply to you? Do you feel a need to make a change, want to, need to? And does the speaker have expertise to back up their claim, research, data, and going on? So every story, every speech, every book, every movie has 3 things, 3 characters: the villain, the victim, and the hero. And these you got to have it, and they're a lot easier than you think. Okay, so in this stage 2 part of the speech, this is where you introduce the villain and the victim. And the villain can be way things are that we have to change depending on. Listen, if you're recruiting an employee, the villain is their past jobs. And we're not knocking on a company. But you might be talking about, and you might be telling your own story that, before I came to this company, I went from company to company, and it was just a job, and I felt like I was trading hours for dollars. And people I was working with when I started left within 3 months. Right, that's the villain that a lot of new employees or potential employees can relate to. And then what's the victim? Right, the victim is could be the person you're talking to. It could be their family because of the inconsistency of the job. I do this with customer service. We do this with every topic. So I'm going to share one with you that I talk about because my third business that I started is Believe in Dreams, which is about making dreams come true for disadvantaged kids. So here's the villain, if you will. What the number one predictor of a child's future success is. It is a numeric number. Some of you might have guessed that it is their high school or college GPA. Others might have guessed it is where they rank in their graduating class or their SAT, ACT scores. Believe it or not, none of those are the highest predictor of a child's future success. Are you ready for what it is? The number one predictor of a child's future success is the zip code they are born into. Yes, the zip code a child is born into is the most accurate predictor of their future success. Whether they will graduate from high school, go to college, let alone graduate from college, what type of college, and how much money they will earn over the course of their lifetime. Okay, so that's the victim, right? I'm sorry, that's the villain, and it's a zip code. And it's hard to make a zip code a villain, but it's the circumstances. So if we're talking about Believe in Dreams, right, the victim now is not only the child born in the zip code, but what he or she's future looks like. That if they can overcome that, is that they grew up to be positive citizens, contributing. Maybe they're future doctors and lawyers and politicians and whoever that might be, and they have children and they impact the community. Those are all the potential victims. Okay, so now you come to the third piece, the proof, right? Where you share the best practices, the success stories, the case studies, prove that it is possible and the solutions to how. So what we ask in our workshop after the attendees to give this part of their presentation, and you give it twice. The first time you give it, and then, it's kind of like being at America's Got Talent. Okay, or whatever Simon Cowell's on. All right, you get feedback and then you get to redo it again. So you're dramatically better. But did the speaker share the how-to? Did the speaker introduce the hero? Right, this is a different section. Right, last section it was the villain and victim. Share proof, best practices, and case study. Do you feel it's possible to do it yourself? So let me get back into John DiJulius, customer experience guru, whatever. And so I'll talk about, the enemy, the villain. The enemy of a great customer experience is inconsistency. What every company suffers from is employee roulette. Employee roulette is when the level of experience your clients receive is dependent on which employee they encounter. Now, I know everyone listening is thinking, oh God, we're guilty of that, right? We all are. It's just how much. So we got to attack that. So the solution to this, one of the solutions, is having your customer bill of rights, having a short list of nevers and always that you train. They become your non-negotiables, that no matter who as a customer I come in contact with, there are certain things they'd never do and always do. So in my presentation, in my workshop, I go into detail on each one and why that's so important. And then we might workshop what their nevers and always are. So that's, revealing the conquering hero. And some tips with this is the hero is never you, me, the presenter. It's typically not even the product or service we're selling, right? That's not the hero. It's the audience, right? It's who you're talking to. It's in Believe in Dreams case. sharing the villain. It's now, if you help, if you donate, if you write a check, if you sponsor, if you volunteer, we can reduce that statistic and have the zip code not determine a child's future success. If the audience, if leaders in the customer experience space, the example I gave, if you create your own non-negotiables and train every new employee, train every existing employee, keep it top of mind awareness, audit, celebrate, coach it, and you can say that we would never do this and always do this, and it's actually happening. The hero becomes the leader who's marching it. It becomes the employees who are delivering a consistent experience. All right. Now, number 4 and number 5 are typically get blown off, and that's a call to action. I mean, so you've shared what's wrong, you've shared how to make it right, but now you got to ask for the commitment. So in the workshop, we'll ask the attendees after the presenter, did his or her portion of the call to action, did the speaker make you feel like you need to do this ASAP, right? With a sense of urgency, run out of this class, this training, and this interview, and apply for the job, or buy the product, right? Whatever that might be. Did they give you a specific call to action? Do you feel that you have a plan to follow? So one of ours could be in our presentation, the 6 steps to creating a customer service revolution. Let me recap it, what I just shared with you, okay? Get your team the Customer Service Revolution book. Everyone on your team should read this. The second thing is appoint a customer experience leader. The third thing, and these are all recaps of what I shared in greater detail in my typical presentation, but you got to create a day in the life of your customer, like I showed you earlier, and train that to everyone. Number 4 is create a customer experience action statement, like the ones I showed you. Number 5 is create your nevers and always, your non-negotiable list. And number 6, create your relationship building training for it. So that is a detailed call to action of what they need to do. And then finally, you got to have a strong close. Different than the call to action. This is where you just, you go with a larger vision of what the world will look like. And a lot of times you could just open with, imagine 6 months from now, 2 years from now, and then you paint the picture of what their world looks like differently. So, the questions we'll ask after our attendees go through the workshop and they give their strong close is, did you see a realistic concept of what could be? Are you inspired to take action? How much do you believe in what you heard versus how much did you believe before you heard this? So how to end your presentation is, do not see the world as it is, but as it might be. Show the audience a bigger picture, a broader set of responsibilities implied by your work, your call to action. You are a revolutionary if, and only if, you are fascinated by the future, restless for change, impatient for progress, and deeply dissatisfied with the status quo. As a revolutionary, you are never satisfied with the present, because in your head, you can see a better future. And the friction between what is and what could be burns you, stirs you, and propels you forward. Let's go start a revolution. Thank you. Okay, so that is the 5 elements of a great presentation. Make sure you ask questions. I am in Las Vegas today speaking to Fat Brands, 1,800 people at the Win. And so I apologize for not being there, but I'm going to give you a call to action. Besides ask questions that I and Lindsay will answer in the next 48 hours, if this moved you and made you feel like you could be better, I highly recommend you sign up for our presentation skills class, which is all about this, but deeper. It's 2 days where you present each part of those 5 elements individually and then you come back and present them all in a 15 to 20-minute presentation. And it's June 11th and 12th in Cleveland, Ohio. And you can go get all details. Lindsay can answer you all details. But we have this a couple times a year, and it is one of our highest rated workshops, and it will move the needle in what you do and how you motivate, inspire your audience, whoever your audience is. I'm going to throw it back to Lindsay.
Awesome. Thanks, John. So just to reiterate, these are the remaining virtual workshop series webinars that we have coming up for at least through July. So in the follow-up email, again, that I will be sending you, any and all questions that you had that I was unable to answer during our time today, we will absolutely get back to you with, as John mentioned. We'll include a copy of the recording, the PDF slide deck that John used, and any other resources that you would need to be able to get a hold of us in regards to presentation skills and other offerings from the DiJulius Group, including a way to register for either all of these at once or individual upcoming webinars. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a fantastic rest of your day.